Jake is going to make a path from small paving stones and large paving stones. These are the small ones, these are the large ones. Okay. The diagram shows Jake's design for a path. The rest of the path is made using the same pattern of paving stones. So it's just this over and over and over again. Small paving stones cost £2.30, while large paving stones cost £3.65. Jake needs to buy enough paving stones to make sure the path is 6 metres long. How much will Jake have to pay for the stones he needs? Let's work out the cost of this bit here. Now I've got 1, 2, 3 large paving stones, so I'm going to have to do 3 times £3.65. I'm going to use my calculator. 3 times 3.65, which is 10.95. This one hit the smaller ones. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to do 10 times £2.30. Okay, even though I can multiply by 10, I'm still going to use my calculator for it. 10 times 2.30 equals 23. So in total, if I add them both up, 10.95, it's going to cost £33.95 just for that little bit there. But we don't just want one bit, he wants to cover 6 metres. So we need to think about how many times do 1.5 go into 6. And that's just a straightforward question. So it's just 6 divided by 1.5, which equals 4. Okay, so we're going to have to times this one here by 4. If you don't believe me, try and work out logically. 1.5, then another set would make it 3 metres. Then another set would make it 4.5. And another set would make it your 6. Anyway, 33.95 times 4, which will equal 135.8. It's going to be in pounds, and because it's in pounds, we have to put our 0. Second part, Harry designs a different path that is also 6 metres long and using the large paving stones. Harry says the cost of this path will be less than half of the cost of the path that Jake designed. Is Harry correct? Okay, so let's work out how much this path is. Right, looking at the last one, the large paving stones are £3.65. I'm going to put £3.65. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have to times that by 6. Okay, get my calculator again. 3.65 times 6, which equals £21.9. Okay, but it's still 6 metres long. So again, we're going to have to times it by 4 because this is 1.5. The same way as the previous path was 1.5. So we're going to have to times that by 4. Okay, which gives me £87.6. Now there's 2 ways you can approach it. You can either think if I double this and it's less than this price, then he's right. Or I could half that and see if it's more than 87.6. I'm going to double 87.6 just for practice in my calculator. Okay, which gives me, so I'm going to put times by 2, 175.2. Okay, that is obviously a lot more than my 153.8. So let's clearly say what the answer is. So say Harry is wrong. Double of Harry's path is £175.20, which is more than Jake's path. Right, 3/8 of the people at the football match are men. 27% of the people at the match are women. The rest of the people at the match are children. Work out what percentage of people at the match are children. Now the problem people might think is that they don't know how many people are in a match, but percentage-wise, we know it's going to be 100%. Now this fraction might throw people, but 3/8 is essentially just 3 divided by 8. I can do that on my calculator. 3 divided by 8 equals 0.375. Now, because my calculator is decent, if I wanted to, I could just put 3/8, press equals, and then press the S to D button, and it does it for me, 0.375. But of course I need to times that by 100 either way to make it into a percentage, which will make it 37.5. Okay. It's a percentage, so it's okay for it to be a point, which will make it 37.5%. We've got add the 27%, and then so I'm going to use my calculator again. 37.5 plus 27 equals 64.5. So I need to work out the difference between this and 100, because 100 is a bigger number. We have to do it on top. 64.5, 100 take away 64.5. So the answer is going to be 35.5%. Diagram shows a shape made by overlapping two identical squares. The area of this shaded region is 25% of the area of each square. Work out what fraction of the area of a whole square is shaded. Now I'm going to go through two ways of doing this. Now it seems like a very complicated question, but when you think about it, it's not. Right, I want to put 25% here. So if this is 25%, that must be 75% of this square. Now if I think of the other square, if this is 25%, that must be 75% as well. Now, if you think of all of it, it's going to seem a bit weird because I'm going to go over 100%. The shaded bit is 25%. And all of it is actually your 75% plus your 25% plus your 75, which is 175%. Now the question doesn't actually ask you for you to do it in your lowest terms, so that is actually your answer, but just give it a percent sign, so 25 over 175. Now if you did want to cancel it down, that is actually 1/7, but because you can divide the top and the bottom by 25. Okay. Now the other way you can think about it is think about it as a ratio. So again, this would be 75 to 25 to 75. Now these numbers are quite big for me, so I'm actually going to cancel these down, which actually makes it 3 to 1 to 3. Now again, if you think about it, 1's the one we need, and 3 plus 1 plus 3 is 7. So again, we get to our 1/7. Diagram shows a shape made by overlapping two identical squares. The area of this shaded region is 25% of the area of each square. Work out what fraction of the area of a whole square is shaded. Now I'm going to go through two ways of doing this. Now it seems like a very complicated question, but when you think about it, it's not. Right, I want to put 25% here. So if this is 25%, that must be 75% of this square. Now if I think of the other square, if this is 25%, that must be 75% as well. Now if you think of all of it, it's going to seem a bit weird because I'm going to go over 100%. The shaded bit is 25%. And all of it is actually your 75% plus your 25% plus your 75, which is 175%. Now the question doesn't actually ask you for you to do it in your lowest terms, so that is actually your answer, but just give it a percent sign, so 25 over 175. Now if you did want to cancel it down, that is actually 1/7, but because you can divide the top and the bottom by 25. Okay. Now the other way you can think about it is think about it as a ratio. So again, this would be 75 to 25 to 75. Now these numbers are quite big for me, so I'm actually going to cancel these down, which actually makes it 3 to 1 to 3. Now again, if you think about it, 1's the one we need, and 3 plus 1 plus 3 is 7. So again, we get to our 1/7. A television has a normal price of £675. In a sale, the price is reduced by 32%. Work out the price of the television in a sale. Now, I always like to do a percent bar whenever I do any percent questions. It just makes sense to me. On this side I put my percent, and the top of my bar is always going to be 100. Now we know how much 100 is because that's the original price, which is £675. Now the sale price is reduced by 32. Because it's reduced, it's going to be less. So I'm going to take off 32% off the top. Okay. Now because it's a calculator paper, I'm just going to do the calculator. So it's 100 minus 32, which is 68. So this is 68%. So you have to ask yourself, how do I get from 100 to 68 by timesing or dividing? Now 68 isn't a factor of 100, so I need to go by another number. I'm going to choose to go by 1%. So it's the same as the unitary method. Now to get to 100 to 1, I divide it by 100. And to get from 1 to 68, you times it by 68. So the other side, I've got to do exactly the same. 675 divided by 100. I'm going to trust my calculator because it's a calculator paper. 675 divided by 100. Okay, equals 6.75. So I know 1% is £6.75. I then have to times it by 68. Okay, which gives me the answer 459. Just have a quick check to make sure it makes sense, to make sure it is lower. 32% is roughly a third. I know roughly a third of 600 is about 200, even though it's a bit more because it's 700. That's about £200 less, so I think that's about right. So I'll put £459. Write an integer in a box to make this statement true. 2/7 is bigger than 6 over something. The word integer just means whole number. Now if we think about this, there's loads of ways you can do it. Now you want to think what actually happens if your denominator. Now if your denominator gets smaller, that fraction actually gets bigger. And for example, 6 over 1 is 6, where 6 over 2 is 3. So essentially what you could do, we just need to put a big number in here. I would probably just go for you can put 9,999. Right, explain why this statement is true. Yeah, for this situation, I would write down, I would say that as the denominator increases, the number gets smaller, and I want to get the smallest possible number. Okay, you could also think about it. You could also put a negative number in there, and even though it's not nice and it's not conventional, that would still work fine. I want to talk about this question just a little bit more, because there is other ways we can think about this. Now, 2 over 7, okay? Right, 2 is a factor of 6. So we could actually see what would happen, or could actually make this an equivalent fraction. And to get 2 to 6, I'd have to times it by 3. So I'd have to times the bottom by 3. So 2 over 7 is the same as 6 over 21. So when you really think about this, 6 over, I need this number really to be over 21. Okay? It's got to be an integer, so the smallest value that I can have is 22. So any numbers less than 22 will give me the wrong answer. Work out the value of the square root of 2.7 plus 6.5, all of it divided by 4.8 minus 1.06. Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Right. Sometimes these questions say estimate. This does not, so all we have to do is just type it in. I've got a decent calculator, so I can actually do it for you. Press your fraction button here to get your fraction. Square root of 2.7. I'm going to press right. Plus 6.5. If you notice, my square root is just over the 2.7 and is not over the 6.5. On the bottom, 4.8 minus 1.06. Okay, let's just double check to make sure it's all right. Is press equals. Give me this, which is 2.17731. Don't care about the rest. Right, 2 decimal places. First decimal place, second decimal place. I look at this 7. Because it's above a 5, it means I'm going to round it up, which will make it 2.18. Here is a number line. On a number line showing the inequality, minus 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 3. Minus 2, you put a circle around. 3, you put a circle around. You join it up. Now you have to decide whether these circles are coloured in or not. It's coloured in when it's equal to, which is this one here. That's it. There's nothing more to that. People tend to forget how to do this. Just circle the numbers, put a line to it. You can do it on the line or you can do it above. Solve 5m plus 3 is greater than 27. Again, this is just something people get confused with. And sometimes people just write that as an equal sign. But you just solve it like you would do a normal equation. The only difference is if you're timesing or dividing by a minus number, your sign changes. But I'm not. Minus 3 minus 3. So 5n is greater than 24. Divided by 5 divided by 5. 24 divided by 5 is 4.8. Oh no, wait. N is greater than 4.8. This bit's important. Okay, there are 240 students in Year 7 at school. The pie chart shows a proportion of boys and a proportion of girls in Year 7. There are 8 more girls in Year 8 than in Year 7. There are 32 fewer boys in Year 8 than in 7. Andy draws a pie chart to show the proportion of boys and the proportion of girls in year 8. Work out the angle of sector in Andy's pie chart. Right, there's a lot to this. Now there are 240 students in year 7 of school. So 240 students, we need to work out how many degrees this is. Now a full circle is 360 degrees. So that's 360 degrees. Now we need to work out how many girls and how many boys there are. Let's go for the girls because it gives us the angle. Now, like percentages, this is a proportion. So we need to work out how can we get to 360 degrees to 177 degrees by timesing or dividing. Now, because they don't have a common factor, we go for a common multiple, but the easiest factor is a 1. So 360 to 1, I'll divide it by 360. And 1 to 177, I'll times by 177. So I'll do the same for the other side. I'll do 240 divided by 360, which means 1 degree represents 0.6 reoccurring. Notice there is a reoccurring sign there. Times 177 equals 118. So we know the girls are now 118. Now to work out the boys, we could work out the angle and then times 0.6 recurring by that angle. But the easiest way to do it is to 240, which is everyone in that school, minus 118. And I'm just going to do it in my calculator. 240 which equals 122. So the boys are now going to be 122. Okay, so there are 8 more girls in year 8 than year 7. So if there's 118, okay, we need to add 8, okay, which is 18 plus 8 equals 126. There are 32 fewer boys. We know there's 122. So I need to minus 32, which is 90. Okay. Work out the angle sector of Andy's pie chart. Now I think the easiest way to do this is just to draw a pie chart of these two numbers. Okay. So the stages of making a pie chart is, first of all, we have to add these two people together to get the total. 126 plus 90 equals 216. Like what I did above, we need to make this 216, which is total of all the people, to the total of the angles. The angle is going to be 360. So to get to 216 to 360, again, these aren't factors, so we have to go by a common one, which is 1. So we have to divide it by 260, times it by 360. Some of you might just be used to just knowing this just as a fraction of 360. I'm only really interested in the girls section, because the question will only ask work out angle of the sector for Andy's pie chart that represents girls. And girls was the 118, which is this one here. So I'll do 126 divided by 216. And I'll times that by 360. My answer is 210. So it's going to be 210 degrees. Let's just see if that makes sense. 90 is sort of like a little bit less than 126. So you think half is going to be 180, that's a little bit more, so it works out proportionally. So let's just make it clear. 210 degrees represents girls. The bar chart shows the number of hours of sunshine each day last week in Margate and in Newquay. It's bar chart. Okay, the ones that have got the lines through is Newquay, the other ones are Margate. How many days did Newquay have less than 5 hours of sunshine? Right, so Newquay's the one. 5 hours is here. Nope, nope, nope. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 4. Okay, next question. In total, Margate had more hours of sunshine than Newquay last week. How many more? So what it's really doing is asking you which is the actual gap. Make sure it does say Margate had more than Newquay. So let's add up how much Margate had. So it's 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 5 plus 3 plus 6 plus 7. Okay, now if I'm going to do Newquay, which I want to use a different colour pen, that's going to be 7 plus 6 plus 6 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 4. Okay, here's all my numbers here. This is a calculator paper, so I'm just going to use my calculator to add all these up. 5 plus 6 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 5 plus 3 plus 6 plus 7, which will equal 39. I'll do the same for Nuki. 7 plus 6 plus 6 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 4, which equals 32. Now I said how many more, so we just do 39 minus 32, which equals 7. Here is a sequence of patterns made from grey squares and white squares. 1, 2, 3. In the space below, draw pattern number 4. Look at the pattern. So obviously the grey squares are getting too much, like twice too many. So these are required for pattern 1, for pattern 2, for pattern 3, for pattern 4, this one. And remember to shade the other ones in. You could obviously use a pencil to shade these to make it a little bit nicer to see. Work out the total number of squares needed to make pattern 7. Now we need to work out like an nth term for this. Now it says total number of squares. So let's just say pattern 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4. Pattern 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pattern 3 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And pattern 4 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now the official way to do is work out your nth term. So a common difference in each case is 2. Which means it's going to be 2n. If we think of 2n as your 2 times table, which would be 2, 4, 6, 8. How do I get from here to here? You add 2. The other way you can think about it is if you look at your shaded ones, that goes 2, 4, 6. That is your 2 times table, and we have to add the 2 white squares. Either way, Sam will answer the question. Work out the total number of squares needed to make pattern number 7. Well, pattern number 7, n will be 7, so it'll be 2 times 7 plus 2. The other way you can think about it is pattern number 1, I've got 2 of these. Pattern number 2, I've got 4 of these. So I'm timesing the, to get the grey ones, I'm timesing it by 7 to get 14. And I'm adding 2 to make 14, 15, 16. So the answer is 16. Right. The total number of squares needed to make pattern number 20 is double that total number of squares needed to make pattern number 10. Is that correct? Give a reason for your answer. Now the easiest way is pattern number 10 would be 10 times 7 plus 2 equals 70 plus 2, which equals 72. Okay, so I'm going to say pattern number 10. The other way, and to make 20, you do 20 times 7 plus 2. 20 times 7 is 140. You can use your calculator, which means it'll be 142. So it's going to be pattern number 20. Yeah. And then you just need one last statement. Just say something along the lines of, say double 72 is not 142. So AQSA is wrong. Right, 41675, correct to the nearest thousand. If you think about it, 41675, let me put 1,000 in. It gives us a clue really. So it's going to be 41,000 or 42,000. We look at the 6. The 6 in turn forces it up because it's above 5, which means it'll be 42, 1, 2, 3, 42,000. This is an accurate scale drawing that shows the position of 3 villages A, B and C. Tom walks from A to B. He then walks from B to C. Amy walks from A to C. Tom walks more kilometres than Amy walks. How many more? Now, if you printed this off, you might get a slightly different answer, just for the fact that I've actually got this page as half. But if we think from A to B, and then from B to C, A to B is 3. I'm actually writing centimetres. Okay. Obviously, if you've printed out a big one, it's going to be bigger. And then from C to B, it's 3.5 centimetres. So together in centimetres, he's walked 6.5. 1 centimetre represents 2 kilometres, so I have to times that by 2. I'll use my calculator again. Equals 13, so it's going to be 13 kilometres. Right, if we're talking about Amy, she went from A to C, which is 4 centimetres. 4 centimetres, we still use the same scale. She goes times by 2, which makes it 8 kilometres. Difference between 8 and 13, I'll use my calculator. 13 minus 8 equals 5, so the answer is 5 kilometres. There are 19.5 litres of water in a water container. A cup holds 210 millilitres of water. How many cups can be completely filled using the water in a water container? Okay, now we've got two options. We can either work in litres or we can work in millilitres. I'm going to find it a lot easier just to work in millilitres. So I need to convert 19.5 litres to millilitres. Now the easiest way to do this is to realise what the word milli and millilitres mean. And it's the same word for milli as in millennium, which actually means 1,000. So there's 1,000 millilitres in a litre. And that's the same as millimetres in a metre, which is 1,000 millimetres. So I've got to times that by 1,000. Again, I'm going to use my calculator. Okay, which is 19.51, 123. Okay, which is 19510. Okay, the cup holds 210. So I'm going to have to divide them. Okay, so I'm going to use my calculator for that. So how many cups can be completely filled? So if you think my answer is 92.904, this 904 is not completely filled, so my answer is 92. There are 78 red counters and 52 yellow counters in a bag. Write the ratio of number of red counters to number of yellow counters. Give your answer in simplest forms. Right, red is 78, yellow is 52. And now we have to simplify that to simplest form. They're quite big numbers. Now, I'm just going to do what everyone else in the world does. You see them both even, so we're going to halve them. So I'm going to use my calculator to do this. Okay. 78 divided by 2 equals 39. 52 divided by 2 is 26. And I check my answer, I see it's a factor of 39 and 26 share. Now it's a little bit easy to see, but it's actually just 13. So we've got to divide them both by 13. 39 divided by 13 equals 3. 26 divided by 13 equals 2. I check that, can this be lowered? It can't, so my answer is 3 to 2. If you're good with maths, 26 actually goes into both of these, so I could have divided them both by 26 to get to there. Now, in my calculator, I could cheat now. It's not the best thing to do, but I do have the fraction button, and my calculator is good. It naturally cancels down fractions. So if I type this in as 78 to 52, okay, I actually got 3 over 2. Don't write 3 over 2 because it's not a fraction, it's just a ratio. It's just a nice way for your calculator to do. Where you can get your 3 from, that's where you can get your 2 from. 375 pupils at school, 195 pupils are boys, 3/5 of the boys walk to school, 2/3 of the girls walk to school. How many of the pupils walk to school? So 3/5, okay, times there's 195 boys. We work that out. I'm going to use my calculator to do that. Okay. 3/5, press right, times 195. Equals 117. So there's 117 boys. 2/3 of the girls walk to school. Now, if there's 195 of the pupils are boys, and there's 375 altogether, we subtract that to get the girls. I'm going to use my calculator again because I just don't want to use my brain. Okay, which equals 180. Okay, so we know 280. Because it's 2/3 times 2/3 equal. I'm going to use my calculator to do 2/3. I could divide it by 2 and times it. I could times it by 2 and divide it by 3, but I'm just going to use my calculator again. 180 times 2/3 equals 120. Then we have to add them. And again, I'm going to use my calculator just to be sure on it. Equals 237. Here is part of an advert from driving school. 8 out of 10 of the people we teach pass the driving test first time. Ali talked to 56 people who have been taught to drive by the driving school. 43 passed the driving test first time. Does this support what the advert said you must show you're working to get your answer? Right, so Ali talked to 56 people, so the total is out of 56. 43 people passed the test, so what we're really asking is 43 out of 56 equivalent to 8 out of 10. Now I'm just going to type in the calculator because this is calculator paper. Okay, so it's 43 out of 56. Oh no, that doesn't simplify. Okay, so I would actually say no. This does not support the driving test. Now, it'd be nice if we... Now, it's easy to think of it as decimals rather than making equivalent fractions, because 8 out of 10 to 43 out of 56, they do share common fact, like multiples, which would be 560, but sometimes it's easy to convert to a fraction. So let's do 43 divided by, let's do 43 divided by 56, so which is 0.76. That's like I say, which is going to be less than 0.8. You can say 0.76 is less than 0.8. Okay, so this is a totally correct answer. You can say that 0.76 is less than 0.8, so this definitely does not support the driving test. Now, there is the other answer, and you can actually prove this does also support the driving test figures. Now, that sounds contradictory that you've got two totally different answers, but as long as you can prove it mathematically, it's fine. And your logic goes like this. If you think of 0.76, okay, now if I did this 10 times, I'd get 7.6 people. You can't have 7.6 people, so they'd have to be rounded up to mean that it's actually 8 people. And that's 8 out of 10, so it does support. The other way you want to think about it is 0.76. If I wanted to round this to one decimal place, I get 0.8. So it does support. Now, both answers are right as long as you've got the correct maths behind it. I have included the marker scheme just to prove to you that there is 2 correct answers to this. On the grid, draw a graph of y equals 2x plus 1 for the values of -2 to 3. Okay, there's quite a few ways how to do this, but the easiest way is to do a table of values. So you have to do an x and a y. Now, for my values of x, I can choose whatever numbers I want, okay, because it's not given. So I'm just going to choose -1, 0, 1, 2. Now, I have to choose at least 3, but I've chosen 4 just for the head of it. -1 times 2 is -2, plus 1 is -1. 0 times 2 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And I just plot this. -1 is here. Okay. 0, 1 is there. Okay. 1, 3 is here. Okay. 2, 5 is there. Okay. Now, just because of the way it is, it's obviously going to be a straight line. This is a straight line, so it works nicely. And there you go. There are other ways to do it. Okay. If you want to get your calculator can actually do your table of values for you. Okay. So if I turn it on, I have to go to mode and 3 for your table. It says f of x. Don't get confused by that. It's just for y. 2, I have an x there. Plus 1. It says your start. My start's going to be -2 because that's my lowest value. End is going to be 3. Step, that's the steps we're going up in, which is 1. And here's my table of values, which is -2, -3, which is here. -1, -1, which is there. 0, 1, which I marked up, and so on. The last way we can do this is by using your intercept and gradient way. This is your y-intercept, so I know my graph is actually going to start here. But the thing is that actually throws this out a little bit, is that my gradient's going to be 2. So that means for every 1 I go across, I go 2 up. Now my scales are different, so it can be confusing. So 1's that, and then 2 up makes it to 3. 1 across, 2 up. Either way is fine, but I would push for the table of values. Here are the ingredients needed to make 20 walnut biscuits. Liz wants to make 50 walnut biscuits. Work out the amount each ingredient she needs. Now again, there's a few ways we can do this. Easiest way is to work out how much one walnut biscuit is going to be. And to do that, you've got to think of how do I get from 20 to 1. You have to divide it by 20. So each one of these, I need to divide it by 20. Okay? And then if we need to get from 1 to 50, we times it by 50. So to get 50, we need to find out how much 1 is, and then times it by 50. Okay. It says of each ingredient, so we've got to do it the wrong way. So the first one for butter, I'll do 50 divided by 20, which is 2.5. Times that by 50 equals 125. Well, for caster sugar, same thing, 100 divided by 20 times 50 equals 250 grams of caster sugar. Flour, again, I just do 40 divided by 20, so much for 1, times 50 equals 100. For walnuts, 50 divided by 20, that's how much it is for 1, and times by 50 again, 125, which is the same as butter, which makes sense. And for eggs, 2 divided by 20, okay, that times by 50, okay, which is 5 eggs. Okay, if you wish to do it an easy way, which is slightly easier, you can think of, if that's 20 biscuits, if I need to make 50, I need twice as much of this, and half as much as well. So if you think if twice as much, if I think of this, I can do that. It's 100 grams, 200 grams of caster sugar, 80 grams of flour, 100 grams of walnut, and 4. Okay, so this is really for twice as much, which is 40. And for half as much, which is 10, I just halve this, which is 25, 50, 20, 25, and 1. So to get 50, I just need to add them all up. I just get the same numbers as this. 100 plus 25 is 125. 200 plus 50 is 250. 80 plus 20 is 100. 100 plus 25 is 125. 4 plus 1 is 5. The table shows information about the heights of 40 trees. Jacob drew a frequency polygon for the information in the table. It is not correct. There it is. Write down 2 things that is wrong with a frequency polygon. Well, not to be sarcastic, it's a frequency polygon. A polygon is any shape of straight lines. This is a curve. So the first thing I'll say is this is not a polygon. Also, if you look at these numbers are actually on the lines. This is not how you draw a frequency polygon. A polygon would have to go into the center. Be careful, because a lot of results people put that aren't true. Is people think that these two have to be connected, which isn't right. People think these two have to be connected, which isn't right. Buses to Ashby leave a bus station every 24 minutes. Buses to Bradford leave a bus station every 20 minutes. A bus to Ashby and a bus to Barford both leave at 7:30. Run all the bus to Ashby and a bus to Barford next leave the bus station at the same time. Okay, we need to make 2 lists. One for Ashby, okay, which starts at 7:30. It's every 24 minutes, so we need to add 24, which makes it 7:54. Add 24 again, now this makes it into the next hour, makes it 18. Okay, be careful with this. Then 8:42, then 9:06, then 9:30, then 9:54, and I think that's enough. Okay, then we have to do exactly the same thing for Barford. So start at 7:30 again. Okay, 7:50, then add 20, which is 8:10, 8:30, 8:50, 9:10, 9:30. I've got 9:30 here. I've got 9:30 here. So my answer is going to be 9:30. So when will the bus? Okay, so the answer is 9:30, 9:30. x plus 5 squared equals x squared plus 25 for all values of x is AMSL right. You must show working. Right, the actual true mathematical way is to x plus 5 squared, which is x plus 5, x plus 5. And then we expand the bracket. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 5 is 25. X squared plus 10, x plus 25. And then you have to do a statement by saying he did not include the middle terms. But also write no. It's important to do no. The other way we could do this question is just to substitute in an answer, substitute in some numbers, see if we're right. So let's say if x is 1, just going to choose 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 squared is 36. And let's say do the right hand side. 1 times 1 is 1, plus 25 equals 26. 36 does not equal 26. Okay, doesn't matter which ones we substitute in, I think a lot of them don't work. Let's say x equals 0. 0 plus 5 is 5, 5 squared is 25. Let's on this side, 0 squared is 0. Oh, but there is one situation that works, but just try a few just in case it doesn't. I'm going to just try one more. Let's just try 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 25 is 29. Another reason why it doesn't work. But again, say no, if you substitute some values in, it does not work. Right, a garden in the shape of a rectangle ABCD and a semicircle AD. And AD is the diameter of the semicircle. Carol is going to cover the garden with fertiliser. A box of fertiliser costs £4.99. Carol has been told that one box of fertiliser will cover 12 metres squared of garden. Work out the cost of buying enough fertiliser to cover the garden completely. Okay, right, to work this out, we need to work out the rectangle. Then we have to work out the semicircle, and then we have to add them together, and then we have to work out the price, and so on. So, rectangle's the easiest bit, is height times base. So it's going to be 5.6 times 8.4. And let's just check the units are the same, and they are, so we don't have to mess around with that. So 5.6 times 8.4, which equals 47.04. Now, next bit, if we think about your semicircle, you need to know your area of a circle first, which is pi r squared. Okay, now my radius is not 8.4. 8.4 is my diameter, so my radius is going to be half of 8.4. I'm going to trust my calculator. 4.2. So the question I have to do is pi times 4.2 squared. Now some of you might want to leave your answer in terms of pi. It will make no difference. So let's do pi, which is pi times 4.2 squared equals, okay, I'm going to round it to about 4 decimal places just for the sake of accuracy. 5.41769. And that's 5. Okay, add them together. I'm keeping this answer into my calculator. So 5.41 plus 47.04, which gives me 102.4. I'll write it down here. 102.457. Okay, now Carol is going to cover the garden with fertiliser. A box of fertiliser costs £4.99. Carol has been told that one box of fertiliser will cover 12 metres squared of the garden. So we need to know how many boxes she buys first. Now, if this is a metre squared, by the way, which I totally forgot, we divide 102.45 divided by 12. Now, again, I'm still using this answer in my calculator because it's more accurate than me keep writing it down. So I need to divide this by 12. So divide by 12. A, B, C, D, E is a regular pentagon. BCF, BCF are straight lines. EDF are straight lines. Work out the angle of CFD. So I'm just going to mark an angle we've got to find out here, which is that one there. Okay. How do we start? Now people get scared of this because there's no numbers, but of course what we can do is we've got this pentagon. Now there's a number of ways we can find out one of these angles for the pentagon. The easiest way is if you think of a triangle equals 180 degrees. We know that a quadrilateral, if that's drawn correctly, equals 360 degrees. So a pentagon, what we keep doing is, and this is your total internal angles, we just keep adding 180 each time. So we can use calculator. 360 plus 180 equals 540. If we wanted to go into an hexagon, we just add another 540. Okay, but we can stop here. Okay, we know all these angles are the same because the shape is regular, so we get the 540. 5 angles are all the same, so we divide it by 5, which equals 108. So now that's 108 degrees. There are other ways we can do this, of course. The other way is if I just do a sketch of a pentagon. If I draw the external angles, I know that all my external angles must equal to 360. Again, there's 5 of them. In my drawing, they're not the same, but in the question they are. So we can got to divide it by 5. So we can do 360 divided by 5, which equals 72. So if I know this bit here is 72 degrees, then this is on a straight line. So I'll do 180 minus 72, which again equals 108. The other way we can do this, and this is my most favourite, is if we draw any pentagon. Okay. I choose a corner, I split it up into triangles. I know the sum of one triangle is going to be 180 degrees. So 180 plus 180 plus 180 is the same as 180 times 3. My calculator, which equals 540. But same as last time, that's all these angles added together. So I need to divide that by 5, which gives me 108. So back to the question, we know this is 108, and you'd have to write 108 degrees is the angle of a regular pentagon. So if I know this is 108, oh, it's also 108. Right, that's 108. So if this is 108, I know I can work out the angle of the triangle because these two are on a straight line. So I'll just get my calculator. So do 180 minus 108, which is 72. And let's just call this proper, let's make this a decent name. Let's call this DCF. DCF is 72 degrees, as BCD and DCF is on a straight line. Wanted to, you could also say that DCF is the external angle of the pentagon, so it has to be 72. Now, the one at the bottom, which is CDF, also has to be 72 degrees, because again it's on a straight line. So write down that CDF is on a straight line to CDE. So this is actually an isosceles triangle, okay? And because this is a triangle, total angles in the triangle add up to 180 degrees. So we have to do 72 plus 72 equals 144. And then we do 180 minus 144, which is 36. So this has to be 36 degrees. So our last one that we say is CFD is 36 as angles in a triangle. Add of 280 degrees. Price of all rail tickets increased by 5%. Price of a rail ticket from London to Ipswich increased by £2.30. Work out the price of a ticket before the increase. Now, I always like to go to my percent bar. It can be quite confusing, but it works for every question. Now, it's increased by 5%. Okay, so we need to find this price here. Okay, but we know something about this. We know this increase of 5% is actually £2.30. So what we're really asking is if 5% of a number is £2.30, what is the original number? So if I put my ratio bar, if I put what I think 5% is, and I know that's £2.30, I can use this to work out what 100% of the number is. Okay, and this is normally what confuses people. So you think we can go 5 divided by 5 to get to 1% and times it by 100, but 5% is a factor of 100. So all you have to do there is times it by 20, because 5 times 20 is 100. £2.30 times by 20, so it's the same on both sides. So use a calculator. So equals 46. So 100% of the number is £46. So my answer is £46. Now the only thing, just to be careful, because the most common mistake here that people do is they just do 5% of £2.30, and that's not what the question's asking you. Rosie has £15 to spend on pens and pencils. She has to buy the same number of pens as pencils. What's the greatest number of pens she can buy? First of all, because she has to buy pens and pencils together, we have to add the pens and the pencils together to make 40p. And that's actually for your pens plus a pencil. And because she's got £15 to spend, we need to see how many times does 40 go into 15. But again, this isn't 15 because this is in pennies and this is pounds. So I'm going to do long division. This 15 becomes 1,500. Okay, and this is an easy sum to do. So I'll show you different ways how to do it. But how many 40s go into 1 is none. So I'm putting a 0. There's 1 left over. How many 40s into 15? 0. Still doesn't, which means I've got 15. How many 40s go into 150? Now this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So along the side, I'm just going to write the 40 times table. Okay, which is going to be 40, then 80, then 120, then 160, then 200. Oh, but I only need to go up to 150, which is there. So I know 40 goes into 150 1, 2, 3 times. So I put 3 at the top. And the difference between 120 and 150 is 30. So I'm going to put the 3 and a 0 there. So now I need to see how many times does 40 go into 300. My times table doesn't actually go up that far. So I need to add to it, which makes it 240, 280, 320. I've passed 300. So now it goes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I need to add more zeros and a decimal place. Okay. So difference between 280 and 320. So I put 20 there. Okay. How many times does 40 go into 200? Oh, it's there. I've already done this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 40 goes into 1,500, 37.5 times. Now let's just actually go back to the question. It is actually asking what is the greatest number of pens she can buy. So I'm not going to give the answer 37.5 because you can't buy half a pen. Okay. So I'm actually going to say it's 37. Now you might say, well, this is a 5. You should be rounding it up. But again, because you can't buy half a packet, you can only buy all of them, and that half is just going to be changed. So the answer is 37. Right. ABC is a right angled triangle. Work out the size of an angled marks X. Give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. Right. First of all, let's label up our triangle. This is the opposite. My longest side is always my hypotenuse. So my adjacent is going to be next to it, as that is what adjacent means. I would always write all my 3 trigonometric ratios. You might have loads of ways of remembering, like SOHCAHTOA, but I always remember it as some old hag cracked all her teeth on apples. Equals, 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 divided, divided by divided. Right, we've got the opposite, we've got the adjacent. So we need the one that's got the opposite and the adjacent, which is your tan. Right, grab your calculator. Okay, check that it's in degree modes. This is a D here. Okay, there might be an R there or a G there. If there is, put your hand up, ask the teacher for help because we need D for degrees. If you something else, you put mode and shift and you press 3 to get your degrees. So I've got tan of the angle equals opposite is 1.9, adjacent is 3.2. So do 1.9 divided by 3.2, okay, which is this 0.59375. But we want to get the angle, so we have to do the opposite function of tan, which is tan minus 1 of 0.59375. I use the actual result that's in my calculator, and to get my tan on this calculator, I have to press shift and then tan, okay, of my answer, which equals 30.699. It asks for 1 decimal place, so it's going to be 30.6. This 9 pushes it up to make it 30.7. Okay, degrees is already there, so I don't need to do it. Samina has a round pencil case and a square pencil case. There are 4 blue pens, 3 red pens in a round pencil case. There are 3 blue pens and 5 red pens in the square pencil case. Complete the probability tree diagram. Okay, so this is a round pencil case, which is the first one. Now you've got to think there's 4 blue pens, okay? And if there's 3 in total, that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So it'd be 4 out of 7. Okay. Conversely, if it's red, there's 3 red pens, so this could be 3 out of 7. Okay, and this makes sense because if you add them both up, you get 7 out of 7. Okay. Next bit, this one here. Okay, this is a square pencil case. Now there are 3 blue pens, which happens to be at the top, and 5. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's actually 8 in total. Okay. For the red, there's 5, and again it's 5 out of 8. And again, it makes sense because these two add up to 8 out of 8. Okay. Now for the second part, it may seem a little bit contradictory, but we just put the same numbers in there because the first event has not affected the second event. So again, this is 3 out of 8, and this one here is 5 out of 8. Okay. Now I would put a couple more columns in here, but the exam question hasn't asked for it, so you don't need to. But here I'd put BB, representing blue blue. This will represent blue red. This will represent red blue, and this will represent red red. Okay. Next to it, I'd normally put the actual chances of the event happening. So the chances of blue blue. Now to do this, what we have to do is we have to times the probability of the blue one, which is 4/7, by 3/8. Because this is calculator paper, I'm just going to use my calculator. So it was 4/7 times 3/8, which equal 3/14. And if we're doing blue red, we've still got 4/7 times 5/8, which is 5 out of 14. If we do red blue, that's 3/7 times 3/8, which is 9 out of 56. And red red, which again is 3/7 times 5/8, which is 15 out of 56. Now, because I did it on my calculator, these have all been simplified down. But if I add them up, I should get 1, because these are all my possible options. And it's a bit harder to see because they've got different denominators, but again, it's because my calculator simplified it. But let's do this just to check. 3 out of 14 plus 5 out of 14 plus 9 out of 56 plus 15 out of 56 equals 1. So now I'm probably correct. Right. Work out the probability that the pens Samin takes are both red. So the ones that are both red would be this one here, which is red red, which is why I wrote it, which make it 15 out of 56. Okay, so your answer is going to be 15 out of 56. You can change it to a decimal, which is fine. You can change it to a percent, which is fine, but a fraction is fine. Just do not write 15 to 56, because that is a ratio and it means something totally different, so it's wrong.